This is our first State Milk Board meeting of the year, 2010. And we're going to begin. We're not used to having so much company in our meetings. Did everybody get a chance to sign in? And everybody that wishes to speak to the board, have you signed in? We just have 2 names on here. Is that correct? Want to give everybody a chance? Okay. Off that list is raw milk. I believe we have some folks in attendance that would like to speak. First would be Carrie Raymond. If you would like to approach the board, please.
I'm Carrie Raymond. I live in the Springfield area. I'm a registered nurse, and I'm also the chapter leader for the local Weston A. Price Foundation chapter. Just real quick, for those who aren't familiar with Weston Price, he was a dentist back in the 30s and 40s who started noticing a big increase in degenerative disorders in his patients as well as dental decay. At that time, there were still some isolated populations around the world that had not been touched by modern society. And he had noticed in people's journal entries when they had come in contact with them, they all had amazing health, perfect straight white teeth, and of course no health care, toothbrushes, things like that. So he spent 10 years traveling to each isolated population, documenting exactly what they did that was different, anything that they did that was similar, progressive documentation through births of many children and those children growing up somewhat. He chronicled those studies as well as his observations in the book Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. There's lots of photographs and very scientific evidence in there. Some things he noticed: they consumed very nutrient-dense foods, one of which was raw milk, unprocessed, fresh from the cow milk that grazed on pastures. So they've started various chapters around the United States just to kind of disseminate that information somewhat. They also do lots of independent research. The Weston A. Price Foundation does. They have a nice little budget for that every year. So I'm the leader for the local chapter there, and because I started getting lots of phone calls about the raw milk issue, people were concerned that they weren't going to have access to the fresh, unprocessed milk, and were asking if I knew anything about that. So that's how I got involved. The biggest thing, there's lots of people out there who are buying raw milk because it's trendy. It's kind of the slow food thing. There's also lots of people buying raw milk because they're very passionate. They've done their homework. They've read the most recent science. They're also discovering there's raw milk that is produced for processing, for pasteurization, and then there's raw milk that's produced more for consumer, and they're 2 different setups. The cows are taken care of a little bit differently, not that one's, I'm not going to point fingers, but just it's a different setup. The latest science is no longer backing up that raw milk from healthy cows is dangerous. Actually, it's quite the contrary. There's actually science now supporting the health benefits to drinking unprocessed milk. The Michigan work group, I know you guys probably heard about the sting operation back a couple years ago in Michigan, the raw milk issue there, where they were actually going to prosecute because it's illegal there. Instead, they put together a work group with their top corporate dairy officials, some raw milk supporters, some doctors, scientists, and they documented, this has been several years in the making, nothing's been allowed to be released that wasn't approved by every single person on the work group. And what they're finding is there actually is a difference between pasteurized milk and unprocessed milk. Is there mineral changes? No, the minerals are still there. However, there's a big change in the actual fat molecules, which is the vehicle by which the minerals are carried into the body and absorbed. So that does make a difference. Enzymes are killed that are produced by the good bacteria. Enzymes are necessary catalysts just for the breakdown of the nutrients. They've got documentation showing improvement in children with asthma and chronic rhinitis. So this has been a very big independent study. A lot of this type of science is what the people who are calling me are very passionate about. Because of this science, because people's own, I tend to be more of a science person rather than a testimony person, but a lot of these people have their own testimonies. The market for unprocessed milk is there. It's not going to go away. My biggest concern is that we're going to start isolating some of those people. They're going to continue to buy raw milk. I think it's important that we maintain that choice for them, that they're allowed to make that choice whether they buy pasteurized or raw milk. I think it's important, you know, Missouri's second biggest revenue is agriculture. I think the average farm only has about 30 head of cattle. I think that, you know, making money from your farm has been a big, big benefit to Missouri. It's kind of what's really built us up. I think we're really going to hinder that. Raw milk is a big income for the farmers. I've met a lot of these farmers. They're very passionate about their milk and their product. I think education probably should be our biggest focus, getting out of what is a healthy, you know, instead of just saying, go to the farm and buy milk, what does a healthy farm look like? What should a consumer look for? Working with farmers who are producing raw milk. How do you encourage the health of your cows? Just listening to those farmers, a lot of them are very, very educated, very concerned about their cows. I don't think the raw milk market's going to go away. I think it'll be dangerous if we try to isolate them. I think creating a hardship for them. Some people, if they can't meet in Springfield, these regular customers, if they can't meet somewhere locally to get their milk, they're driving over an hour one way. You know, especially some of the people who drink it for health issues. I think that's creating a hardship. I think it's unfair. I think we have a great opportunity. This is really growing. You know, 30 years ago, during, you know, one of the people that worked for the Nixon administration, they said organic foods equals starvation. Here we are now signing into legislation in the United States, all kinds of organic laws, and the United States is really behind it. I think, you know, things are going to continue to change. I think now would be a great time. You know, 25% of the population cannot even consume pasteurized milk. They can't consume milk at all. Raw, unprocessed milk, there's lots of documentation. Once they start consuming it, it naturally has lactase in it. They're able to go back to drinking pasteurized milk. And they then begin eating ice cream that they never bought before. So not only are we going to increase, you know, milk revenue by these people being able to do that, also the people who are meeting in all the people from surrounding Springfield who were meeting at, say, the Mama Jean's parking lot to pick up their milk. I had been there on several occasions. They were going inside Mama Jean's. They were bringing in lots of revenue for Springfield, lots of you know, shopping that they could, you know, normally do outside of Springfield. I think it'd be a great benefit to Greene County, especially. This is really growing. It would be nice to really get on top of this, get behind the science that's out now in other states. I know in California, there's a huge dairy, organic pastures dairy. Last year, now it's legal in California, you can buy raw milk at the store. They've sold 65,000 gallons of milk. Not one bad sample, not one incident of illness. We've had a large volume, just in Southwest Missouri alone, of raw milk sales. There's been one reported illness, and that was a unique situation. But there's not been any illness from the raw milk sales going on in the Springfield area, and we have a very large volume going on. So, hoping we can kind of partner together maybe instead of isolating the raw milk drinkers, the people who are really passionate about it. Do you have any questions for me?
Madam Chair. Yes, a couple of questions. You mentioned a national organization of which you're the chapter president. Could you give me the name of that organization?
The organization is the Weston A. Price Foundation. I can leave you a business card and a pamphlet as well. And Sally Fallon is actually the national, it's actually a worldwide organization. I'm just the chapter leader for the Southwest Missouri chapter. Yeah, I'll leave you some paperwork for that.
And then you cited some scientific evidence. Could
Yes.
you forward that evidence that you have?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And where would you like me to forward that to?
The executive secretary.
Do you want just this one specifically, or would you like volumes? Or
No, I don't want volumes.
I didn't think so.
Volumes out there.
I've got-
Because I've seen both
And
sides.
honestly, you could probably find evidence